Welcome back to the Beer Explorers, everybody. The episode where Alessandro and I open and close our epic beer brackets. And man, I've got two extremely interesting beers today for you that I've never tried before that I can't wait to try. You said you've been holding on to these beers for a couple of weeks, right? You've got some good ones too.
Yes. That's exactly right, my friend. And as always, we're always on the same beer page.
It seems like it.
The two that I have picked are two that I've never had. And we'll get into the details, but it's going to be quite interesting, I think.
Let's get right into this because I can't wait. This opening legend is so juicy, and this beer treat that I have for you is quite spectacular. But I'll let you start. What are you opening your beer brackets with?
Thank you so much, my friend. Always a gentleman. And
of course.
I really appreciate that. So I've picked quite the legendary beer in the sense that it's a beer that is revered by a lot of people in the beer community. It's a little bit hard to find, and I will also add it is a little pricey. So you'll excuse me, but this is going to be a one-off. I didn't purchase two. So there's not going to be a pour shot.
No beer void pour shot.
No, there's not going to be a pour shot for this one.
That's all right. But your sexy face in the video right now as it is, with holding the beer, drinking the beer is more than enough. That'll make up for it.
I managed to procure Fonteinen.
I know what that is.
I see.
I know what that is.
You see it, right? Like, there it is.
Oh, I know that 3.
I managed specifically to get an Oude Geuze, which is a traditional lambic, not the one like aged with fruit.
Okay.
So it's a blend of 1, 2, and 3-year-old lambics. We'll get into the details of what lambics are and what this brewery, in particular, the Fonteinen. I have a beer scroll here that will help me in narrating the legend of this phenomenal brewery that has existed for quite a long time.
This could be one of the most epic opening beer bracket of all time, buddy.
It could be.
This brewery at least came up in the beer bracket sessions episode that we did with Simon from Real Ale Craft Beer. And this is from the Wychwood Brewery, and it is the Hobgoblin IPA.
Ooh.
Now, I know that you're familiar with the Hobgoblin beers, right? I don't know for sure if you've tried one.
I have not tried it, but I've seen it, my friend. Yes.
So the Hobgoblin beers traditionally were by the Wychwood Brewery, which brewed very epic cask ales over in the UK and the forest, my friend. It's a forest beer, or it was a forest beer. But maybe, how about this? How about we pour out the beers and then we get into these legends? How does that sound?
I think it sounds fantastic, my friend.
I've never tried a Hobgoblin beer either.
Well, that's exciting, man. Like, so see, and I definitely have not tried it. So you see here the little beer cap with the legendary.
This nice dark amber coloring to it. Beautiful looking IPA so far. And from one thing that I can tell just from pouring it out really quick is that it smells nice and malty, which is what I love out of my IPAs. Oh, that smells delicious. Okay, I'm just going to watch you pour out this. I am not a big fan of lambics. I love exploring. I love beer exploring, of course. And I've always been curious about trying lambics. And every time I used to live in Toronto and I had a friend there who our friend Vince, you know Vince. He loved lambics. And so whenever we would go to this one pub that was nearby where we both lived, they had a lot of lambics there. And he'd always get me to try one. I tried them and I took them in for what they were. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I understand why people like them. I really appreciate the complexity of them and the story behind like the open air fermentation and all that good stuff that I'm sure you're going to get into. And I see you taking in the beer whiffs, taking in the beer fumes.
Just like so phenomenal, but my friend, okay. I'm dying to hear the story. So I'm gonna just enjoy here this.
I think
first sip.
Let's take a sip first. Let's enjoy. Let's get some beer in us. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers
to
you,
my
friend.
Opening beer bracket. Oh wow, delicious. Okay, a little bit of a beer history on the Wychwood Brewery. So the Wychwood Brewery was a pub and a chain based in Witney, Oxfordshire, in England, my friend, deep in the British forest, deep in the beer forest. And the brand, it was independent at one point, but the brand is currently owned by the Marston's chain of breweries, which is affiliated with Carlsberg. So Carlsberg's kind of like the parent company that did buy out the Hobgoblin Brewery, or the Wychwood Brewery here that makes the Hobgoblin beers. Here's the thing, okay? So this was a beloved brewery in the UK that made an immense amount of cask ales. And if you're not familiar with cask ales, you can check out our episode on what are British ales. We have a great Inside the Brackets on that. We can learn a little bit about camera and real ales. So they used to produce around 50,000 barrels of real ale, of cask ale, and the Hobgoblin was one of them. And so they would sell non-filtered beers in cask, and they would also bottle and can and actually distribute that worldwide and not just around the UK. It was originally the Eagle Brewery, and it was renamed to the Wychwood Brewery after the ancient Wychwood Forest, which borders the town of Witney. The Hobgoblin name, as they say, came from all the forest dwellers, the legends of the forest dwellers that lived in and around the brewery.
I see. Those magical creatures.
One thing to keep in mind here, Carlsberg came in, and this chain of Marston's breweries in the UK, it's a big chain. It's owned by Carlsberg. It's considered to be like this big company that came around and ate up all these smaller pub chains and smaller pubs and smaller breweries, right? So the big evil Carlsberg swept in and bought up. And so a lot of people feel as though it's not the same as it once was, especially because in 2023, so very recently, Carlsberg shut down the original brewery. Ooh. And now it's all brewed on the same site, the bigger Carlsberg brewery, so it's all brewed on site there. See. So that small little forest brewery was shut down. Now, my friend, here's where the special surprise treat comes into play.
Okay.
Because I wrote a beer poem.
Oh, my friend. That is next level. That is next level, my friend. I'm just going to sit here, get all tucked in, and ready to enjoy the beer poetry.
This is the first time ever on the Beer Brackets channel that beer poetry has been read. So here is a beer poem that I wrote, and it's called The Tale of Wychwood's Changing Fate. Everybody curl up by your beer fire, crack a beer,
and enjoy.
In a forest deep where shadows play, Wychwood brewed its ales by day. A goblin king their label bore. Their craft was magic, tales and lore. Ooh. Hobgoblin led their merry band, a brew beloved across the land. With hops and malts in perfect blend, they charm the hearts of foe and friend.
That's phenomenal, man.
But whispers came, a storm grew near. A shadowed giant soon appeared. The Carlsberg beast, with coins in hand, came stomping through this ale-soaked land. They bought the magic, brewed for cheer, and filled the woods with corporate beer. Though goblins stayed and still do brew, some say the heart was stolen too. Yet legends thrive and tales are spun of Wychwood's fight 'neath moon and sun. So raise a pint and let's declare the goblin spirit lingers there.
Wow. Cheers, my friend. Cheers to you. That is phenomenal.
I think that sums up the story of Wychwood and Hobgoblin pretty well there.
I think that deserves high prize, my friend, for that. Like, that is absolutely phenomenal. Really, really well written. Beautiful rhymes. You definitely shocked me there. Like that's a masterpiece. I almost want to hear it again.
It's the ultimate. Rewatch the episode.
That's right. There you go. We're gonna have to rewatch the episode. I'm still a little shocked by the beer poem, so I'm gonna try my best to compose myself and read here out of my beer scroll. That was very beautiful. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to achieve that level of height and poetry, because
you already have, buddy. You already have.
Oh, well, that's too kind of you, my friend. But really seriously, like I really think you've done something magical and beautiful there. So.
I was inspired by the Beer Brackets pub and the magic that within its walls.
And that's the most beautiful thing, my friend. And the wizards are here watching over us. Don't forget that. They're always here. The brewery Trois Fontaines is a legend in itself. It's located in Bercel in Belgium. And it's obviously renowned for their lambic and blends of different lambic beers. It dates back to 1887. Pretty much their quality has been staying consistent ever since. However, something
1887. Wow.
yeah, something very important to mention is that this brewery has continued over the centuries thanks to the hard work of the family that owned it. Unfortunately, in 2009, there was a devastating accident. Nobody really knows exactly what happened, but imagine the scene. The brewmaster is walking in the cellar. Temperature control system had a problem, so the temperature had risen too high. Lambics are bottle fermented. So when the temperature goes beyond a certain point, you start having pressure problems with the bottles. So a lot of bottles, actually 80,000 bottles of their stored beer.
80,000.
Started to explode and so it was just like
catastrophe.
A beer catastrophe, exactly. Yeah, imagine for the family, right? Like that's pretty much where all their wealth is, like with the majority of their beer stock that now is exploding there because of a malfunction.
Wow.
This is where the resilience come into play. Here, the genius here of one of the family members, they thought to try and salvage as much as possible with the remaining beer and make a little bit extra money from that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to survive. They decided to take the rest of the beer and distill it into an eau de vie, which took the name of Armand's Spirit. Armand from the name of the owner of the brewery at the time. Really, really briefly for our fans that might be interested in what a lambic is, a style of beer that relies heavily on the influence of wild yeast. And this is
wild yeast.
Yeah, within the beer bracket sign, just right there, my friend. And this is obtained usually.
So many wild yeasts.
With
the beer desk.
It's in the beer desk for sure, man.
Oh my God. So dozens of liters of beer have absorbed into this beer desk over the years.
That's
so many wild yeasts.
It's beer soaked. It's beer soaked.
It is. But it has a musky aroma.
It is. It's part of the legend and the lore of the pub, my friend.
You walk into my office here, you can smell it. It's funky, woody, beery, ale aroma.
It's just like being in a brewery, my friend.
It's like a beer library, I would say, in here. It's just the mix of the wood and the beer. Anyways, sorry. Yes, the wild yeast, exactly, from the open air fermentation.
Exactly, my friend. And you've hit the nail on the head. That's kind of like the key, the open air fermentation that happens right after the beer has been mashed. And then the beer is then transferred into oak barrels where it further ages for 1, 2, 3 years, and it's that blended into the Geuze style that is the one that I'm enjoying here tonight. And the interesting thing is that on top of that, you have different vintages at that point, and it's up to the blender to decide how the final beer is going to taste like. And that's also here on this one here that I'm drinking. Right. It's from season 2020, 2021. And it was bottled. It gives you always the bottling date of 23rd of February of 2021. It's obviously bottle fermented, so there's residual yeast at the bottom. And those beers are beers that you can easily age for a very long time because they get better with age.
That's the perfect introduction to the style, man. I mean, how would you describe that particular one? So that's coming up on 4 years old at this point. 3 going on 4 years old.
It's incredibly complex. I would say, to your point, it's if you go into a lambic thinking a traditional beer, you're going to be disappointed because you're not going to find any of the classic like hoppy and malty aromas. It's heavily acidic. It has like some very prominent savory notes, I would call them. It's leaning to me way more into wine category if you want, but it's not quite wine because it has like this very acidic component. The lambic is really a very unique style that requires time to kind of like understand and also appreciate, because I'll be honest, just like yourself, the first couple I tried I was not a fan of, but I find that every time I go and revisit one, I discover a slightly different aspect, and I grow like a little bit of an appreciation for it. It's definitely not something that you crave on a daily basis, I would say, or at least I don't. It's more of a special occasion.
Right, exactly.
Special occasion beer.
It's definitely a special occasion drink. It's interesting, that kind of like natural fermentation, and that's so fascinating to me, having like these open air rooms. You see ones from 200 years ago, and like, the stone rooms with just open windows with, obviously no kinds of screens or anything, keeping bugs out, keeping animal, birds out, whatever it might be, but it's just open air within this room. And so whatever does happen to, the natural yeast you were saying that come from the air, that come from outdoors, that fall in, it's very much a natural product.
It is.
So
it is.
It's kind of unbelievable. Yeah, they're an acquired taste. That's for sure.
For sure.
I think you got to have it a couple of times to be able to really sort of appreciate, start picking notes out of it. Because the shock like you said, you're expecting a beer because it's in the beer category, and then you taste it and it's not like a beer at all.
Ultimately, the finish is what I am enjoying the most about this beer, and that's up to the craftsmanship of the master blender when they make those beers. The ability to find the right balance of all the elements, picking young and older lambics to mix together and making the ghost style, like the one that I'm enjoying here, and finding the right balance. It's really a roller coaster of flavors. And what I like about it is that each one you get, it's going to be different. So it's not that you can't say like, well, I've had the goes from the Fontaine. Like, no, it's just like
it's
a
an
bottle of wine.
ever-evolving product.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a wine. Like it's yes, you can have the same wine from the same producer, but it's going to change every single time because it's a blend. It's a living thing on top of having like the yeast is going to be different, obviously, from a season to the other. And that's also why they label it with all those information so that you can actually get. I don't want to get too much into the details, but if you go read here in the back, it even tells you the ingredients, but it tells you. So in this case, the mash is barley malt 60%, raw wheat 40%. It gives you also indication of what type of lambics they've used. In this specific case, they use 4 different ones. 3 are made on house, and 1 is from a smaller local lambic producer that they introduced in the blend. And they all have to be, for tradition, like a certain amount of years in order to be called goes for style. So like, again, there's just so much information that goes into a very simple bottle or what seems to be a very simple bottle. So
what seems to be
exactly. But my friend, tell me about yours. I've spoken quite a long time, and you've told a beautiful poem. So I need to hear more from you. I'm still so shocked by that. That's so amazing. That's absolutely so amazing.
This beer is I really like it, but I will say right off the bat, this isn't anything complex. It's not anything outstanding, but it's very well done, and I really enjoy it. I really, really like it. This is my kind of IPA, but even milder than my kind of IPA.
Okay.
Like, as somebody who doesn't seek out IPAs, I would be like, I'd like it to be a little bit hoppier, but that's good for me. Like, I'm enjoying this. I'm really, really enjoying it. It's very malty. Like, I would compare it almost to like a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale in the sense of like it's very malt forward. And the hops that you do taste are very fresh. It's almost like, how Sierra Nevada uses like the whole cone hops.
Yes.
So you really get that very fresh, sort of deep, piney, aromatic kind of hop that comes through on Sierra Nevada. But it's kind of like the malt is almost the primary character there. This is very similar. But it's mild. It's extremely mild. I mean, this is 5% ABV. Yeah, exactly. 5 on the nose. So for an IPA, that's a little low from the average. Yeah. Very much like a pale ale or just like a regular English ale, I would say. I'm actually very fascinated by the fact that this is labeled as an IPA, because I would never in a million years, if I was just blind taste testing this, I didn't know what it was, I would never classify this as an IPA. But good thing, because I'm really enjoying that. I'm not, as somebody who's not a big IPA freak, I'm really enjoying this. This is right up my alley. Like, this is a classic English ale. I actually had the Robertson's Trooper a couple of days ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I had just had a can that I got at the LCBO on my last beer pilgrimage over to Ontario, and I had it in my garage. And this is very much along the same line, surprisingly, even though it's labeled as an IPA, like very rich and malty, very nice hops. It says on the can here that it uses an intense tropical explosion of zesty oranges, grapefruit, and honey, and juicy bitterness. This beer, for somebody, if you're a big IPA fan, you might not enjoy this too much, just because you might want to get more out of it. But yeah, you definitely get that fruitiness. You can definitely, it says grapefruit on the can. You can definitely pull grapefruit out of there. Rich honey, definitely deep breadiness. It's like, this is just a delicious English ale, in my opinion. I have no idea why this is labeled as an IPA, but that's what it comes off. Absolutely delicious. Love it. I can see how this on cask fits right in. I tried the Timothy Taylor's Landlord one time on the on this on this channel, on this show that we do here, and
in the pub.
This is right up in the pub, and this is very much like along the same lines as that one too. Again, I'm very fascinated. Let us know down in the comments if this, attracted anybody from the UK who's familiar with this beer. If you have any strong opinions or knowledge on this being an IPA in particular and why this is labeled as an IPA, and if you've had the beer and you understand why that's confusing to me, let me know. All right, buddy. These beers will be drank. Don't worry, but we need to close our beer brackets because I have an epic beer to close my brackets.
Another one, my friend. So, for my closing beer brackets, I've managed somehow to stumble upon a beer that seems to be very difficult to find, or at least
what is it?
I find very few mentions of it, so it almost seems like it's a ghost beer, in a sense.
I'm intrigued.
And it caught my attention, you will
ever.
see, mostly because of how it looks, and I had never heard about it, so I grabbed it and I started researching it and reading about it. From the Brehon Brewery, the Jack Ryan Raglan Road Whiskey Cask Age Imperial Stout. And as you can see here, it has...
Oh my God, look at that.
It has a very nice wax coating on
the
bottom.
wax coating dripping down, the beautiful dripping sensual beer wax. Look at that.
Do you see that? Like that's amazing.
Oh my God,
right?
I see that. Yeah.
What caught my attention, aside from obviously the presentation of the bottle, is that it's an Irish beer crafted in Ireland, and not only it's called like Jack Ryan because Jack Ryan is it's a distillery, whiskey distillery.
Okay.
So
I didn't recognize that name. So Jack Ryan's a whiskey distillery.
Yes, this beer in particular, this stout, is aged in whiskey barrels that are coming from that distillery.
Jack Ryan.
But it's also interesting because they made a specific whiskey at Jack Ryan, a specific edition, a 5-year edition, that then uses the barrels on which this beer has been in to finish the whiskey. So they have, it's a beer that like it's using these barrels to put the beer in, and then a whiskey.
The infinity screen.
Yeah, it's the infinity. Exactly, my friend. Exactly. I thought you would find it funny.
It's the beer infinity screen back again to haunt us.
That's it.
That is oh my God, man! What a beer find! Where did you get that?
I found it at the Total Wine local store, my friend. And the interesting thing is that I was researching it on the website. You find a lot of delicious beers on their website, but this beer is not listed. So you find pictures of it online, you find references of it, but it's a bit of a beer mystery. So I've been quite intrigued to try it, and I thought,
oh my God, man, this is amazing. It's incredible that you're featuring it on the channel because now we can maybe bring this beer ghost to light. So if anybody knows about this beer, let us know down below what you think. This might be just like the perfect moment to bring this beer back to life out of the beer nether regions.
It could be.
To bring it back from the beer afterlife.
Maybe it's been gone for a while and now it's back. Like who knows?
Maybe it has been gone for a while, but that's awesome. I'm flabbergasted. I want to try that so bad. I mean, I love Irish beer. Anything from Ireland, I'm fascinated by, and that looks beautiful. Look at that wax pouring down. The
name of the brewery, Brehon, comes from the fact that the family that started it owned this farm, and they decided to call it Brehon from the Brehon laws from medieval times. Those laws, it was described that each clan was allowed to have a brewery to brew beers for the clan. So that's why they named it that, kind of like as a reminder of the rights of being able to brew your own beers. So I thought that was very really much cool. Fitting. It's a beautiful thing to have in a law that says, no, you have the right to brew beer. That's fantastic.
Exactly. What a beautiful beer find, man. That's so epic. Oh, I can't wait to hear about that. So you know that I have this beer, so this is no surprise. But I've been holding on to this for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and I can't wait to try this. From Aecht Schlenkerla, it is their Schwartz beer.
There it is.
Erle. I would say, yes, the Aecht Schlenkerla Erle. And I found this just randomly. They don't have it anymore. So the liquor store that's like a block away from my house, where normally you just buy your wine and spirits, they have like a tiny little shelf. It's like 1/8 of one aisle in the back of the shop where they have a couple of import beers sometimes.
Yeah.
But they rotate out. Like they have the regulars. They always have Stiegel there, which is really amazing. And they always have the Portuguese Superbock They always have that there. So there's a couple that are kind of mainstays, and then there's some that they rotate out. So you'll see the random like Chimay beers. You'll see some random Belgians. And that's where I got like the Guden Carlus from the last Beer Explorer episode. Then this just popped up one day, and there were just like 6 bottles on the shelf. So I grabbed 2 of them, and then it disappeared. And I've never seen it again. So this was a rare find, man. And you said you have been unable to find this one, right?
I have not. I haven't been able to find that, my friend. I've found like the road beer, and then that's perfect, my friend, because I still remember when I received that newsletter that announced the production of the 2.
The newsletter.
And I was thinking, I would really like to try them both. And I'm actually very intrigued to hear about the fact, because that's a Schwarzbier, and I'm a huge fan of Schwarzbier, but it's very difficult to find some. So, and especially from Schlenkerla, our friend Matthias, that I can't wait. I'm really excited to hear your description of that.
Yeah, and this is amazing because traditionally you're the one that can get all the different variations of Schlenkerla. So you've featured a whole bunch of their beers on the channel before, and we've only done the review of the Marzen, back one of the first episodes we filmed. And so it's a black lager smoked with alderwood. And if you've been living under a beer rock and you've missed all the episodes where we've talked about Schlenkerla beers, this is a wonderful brewery in Bamberg, Germany. We did a great episode interviewing the 6th generation owner of Schlenkerla, Matthias Trum. You can go watch to get a whole background, but they basically still in-house smoke all their malts, traditionally with beechwood, but this is smoked with alderwood, so slightly different to give it the character. But their beers all have this beautiful, delicious, fresh, smoky character to them, and they're just one of the most unique, high-quality, best brewers I've ever tried in my life. I love their beers. I think they're all beautiful in their own ways. And so this, I know you're such a big fan of Schwarzbier, and so I'm sorry that you can't try this along with me, but I will do it justice in describing it, buddy. Let's pour out these beers. I cannot wait to hear about that one. Let's do it. I'm so excited for this. I've been holding on to these in my fridge for weeks.
That's one of the most difficult things when you find a good beer and you have to hold on to it.
The smoke almost knocked me off my chair. It just punches you in the face. Just campfire punching you in the face.
I might need a knife.
Okay. Using a beer knife?
I might.
Remember, point it directly at your eye.
I got it.
Cut towards the eye.
That's the right way, my friend.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, look at that.
It's just so dark, and that patented like Schlenkerla head. Have you noticed like all their beers? They have that sort of like soapy, foamy, but thick head.
Yeah.
They have like a little bit, just the right amount of oiliness to them. Like they leave a lacing on the glass when you swirl them around. How's that beer smelling? Just straight out of the bottle. Tell me, like pouring it out. What do you get?
It's the first thing I thought when I poured it is, the beer that sits on our perfect beer round table.
The Innocent Gun Irish whiskey cask?
Exactly, my friend. It has a lot of that character. And this is what I like about the Irish, or in general, stouts that are not from North America, let's say. They tend to have a more gentle character, and they have a more pronounced whiskey note, but it's not overpowering, and it's not overly sweet. Very well balanced.
Seriously.
It's just inviting, and there's this deep coffee and chocolate note. And I haven't even like really smelled it. I've just like this. These are just from the whiffs like coming out of the bottle and the glass. It's just like phenomenal.
The whiffs. Do you hit the nail on the head with something there? How the Irish are so good at making subtle yet delicious and character-filled stouts. Because here in North America, like with craft breweries, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're all delicious in their own way. But we're so used to stouts here just like hitting you in the face. Like it's sort of like how much character can you pack into a stout while still making it palatable and balanced, right? And so there's an art in that for sure. But the Irish stout, my friend. And there's I'm not talking Guinness. Guinness is its own drink, its own beverage. But like the dry Irish stout, the O'Hara's Irish stout is fantastic too. Well, cheers, buddy. Let's take our first sips here. Let's enjoy these epic beers. Look at this. That we're taking a sip of right here for the first time. Oh.
Ooh. So my friend, I know traditionally I go first, but I gotta hear about this.
Do you need to beer process for a little bit?
I might need, but I'm mostly curious about the Schlenkerla.
It's just wood, like fresh. When you throw like a nice, like you chop down a tree and you take a fresh moist log from that tree and you throw it into a fire, and that fresh smoky wood smell that you get off that, if anybody's ever been lucky enough to experience that, it's so potent, like beautiful, fresh, smoky wood, but then deep, dark, like chocolate, dark roasted malt.
Nice.
This, I got to take one more sip, but I haven't had many Schwarzbiers. This is by far the best Schwarzbier I've ever had. By far. Like, and I know the Schlenkerla, the smoked characteristic takes it to another level, so it should almost be a different category. If you're categorizing it as a Schwarzbier and you're calling it that, this is by far the best one I've ever tried in my life, man. Oh my God.
Wow.
The Marzen that we reviewed there together.
Yeah.
You get that bacony, savory character that really comes through. This isn't bacony. This is woody and roasty and deep, dark flavors. Nice, dark chocolate that lingers in the background.
Oh, that sounds like heaven.
There's a little tang of bitterness on the finish. Like that chocolate just sort of transitions into hops.
Yeah.
What's left is just that smoky woodiness again. It's heavy, full flavored, but I could drink this easily. Like, this is not, you're not going to struggle to finish a pint of this. This is just a pleasure. Wow, what a beer.
That's awesome, man.
What a beer. Schlenkerla, cheers to you. My God. Wow.
Cheers. Cheers to Matthias.
All right, buddy, tell me about that one.
Incredibly complex. Has like these very distinct whiskey presence. Like it's probably the first thing that you smell. But then it's surrounded by this deep chocolate / espresso note. Then you take a sip and you get at first this very deep chocolatey character that then transitions into this more layered whiskey. I think the closest thing that, I don't know if you've ever had those chocolates that have like liquor in them. They sell them usually around the holidays.
Of course, yeah.
It really
But that's the
resembles,
perfect description, yeah.
But this is 8.8, and you can definitely tell that there is a little bit of an alcohol presence. So the whiskey presence is more on the front line. The finish, I think, is a little bit unbalanced to my liking, in the sense that you get like almost all the chocolate and the coffee are gone, and the whiskey is almost what is the only thing that is left. That can be something that is appealing. I would have liked to have a little bit more of the beer character, to be quite honest. But aside from that, it's a delicious beer. Very interesting, very unique. It has that unique Irish character that is very difficult to replicate, or to find elsewhere, let's say. Very excited to have had the opportunity to try this.
What a pleasure. I mean, epic beers. I mean, that's just, especially for a closing bracket, like, whoa.
That's right.
Hitting it out of the park. That is yours, like both of these, I would say. Yeah. But yours is like the stereotypical closing bracket, like that barrel-aged stout that close out the night. Just the sipper, the winter warmer to just by the beer fire.
That's exactly right.
I can't get over this beer. You know what? Schwarzbier, I'm always fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. Some Schwarzbiers that I've tried sort of fatigue my palate after a little bit.
Yeah.
Like maybe halfway through the beer, it starts to get a little, the tangy, like, bitterness off the roasty character starts to build and build and build, and then after a while that's all I get, and I start to lose the character of the beer, and it's just like sharp bitterness. This doesn't have that. This is so well balanced. I'm at a bit of a loss for words to describe actually the uniqueness of this, but it has to do with the smoke. If it didn't have the smoke and you just had the Schwarzbier characteristics, I think I would have the same feeling about where it's like the first half I'm like, oh my God, I'm loving this, but I've never been able to fully enjoy the second half of a Schwarzbier. Just for that reason, I get fatigued. So I think smaller portions, like if I had sort of like a half pint of it or something, would suit me better personally. Yeah. But this is, the smokiness just takes it to another level. I could easily finish this. So, buddy, you as a fan of Schwarzbier, you would lose your mind over this. My God. Everybody, we've been going on forever. This was an epic episode of the Beer Explorers.
Really
Thank you
was.
so much for joining us. These beers will be drank. Do not worry. We will drink them off camera. But
100%.
thanks for joining us in the pub. If you've been sticking around this whole 45 minutes or whatever this episode is, or keep your eye on the screen here because there'll be some other episodes you can watch if you want to keep hanging out in the pub with us. And whatever you do, click that beer bell because what that does, it's going to let you know when we're hanging out in the pub.
And no matter what, don't forget to close your beer brackets.
Cheers, everybody. Happy beer exploring.
Happy Beer Explorer.